So it looks like my AirPods are not going to work, so I am here teaching you guys in my office. So if you hear some extra sound and stuff like that, it's just work going and moving around. So I just get back in the gallery. So can you guys talk to me a little bit about the reason for you coming to the class today? There's only three of you guys so far. I'm sure that we're going, or maybe four of you guys, but we'll add more people as we come along, so I can help tailor the class to your needs.
For me, I'm super brand new. I'm still waiting for my license to get in from Harrisburg. So my productivity coach always recommends that renting, is a good first step, especially, the contracts are a little bit smaller. It's kind of an easier, quicker turnaround. So just here to learn whatever you have to share.
Gotcha. And Caleb, I think, we've already talked before. You've come to my class before and we tried to get you into one of the buildings and stuff like that too as well. I think I actually shot you an email earlier this morning to see how was the tour. I didn't know if it worked out or not.
Yeah, we weren't able to get it, but she's on my list to contact after this class, just to see if she found a place, because I sent her a bunch of places that were in her criteria anyways, so that I would still keep her interest and she would still feel like, oh, this guy is still legit. He has other places to show me because I don't know where they're going to see other places. They could see places that they don't like. So I was like, why not give them the option of still reaching out to me?
A lot of the leads will tell you that, oh, no, I haven't seen anything yet. I'm just using you. And after you tour, after you talk to them, they're touring again.
Yeah, I definitely had that happen to me. It's not a fun experience, but as Kate will understand, we're both actors, and we handle rejection pretty decently, hopefully, right?
We try.
Gotcha. And Jerry?
This is Jerry. I am a new agent too. Not technically yet, because I'm still waiting for my license approved. Just taking all the training classes as much as I can. Here to learn. Yep. And I'm just going to mute because I have a toddler running around.
Sounds great. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and do a very basic my preliminary class with you guys, so we can talk about what is the rental business, why is it important, and should you be chasing after every single lead that is out there and doing everything you possibly can, and so showing you some good and bad techniques. So let me just share my screen. All right. Let's see here. Where are we? Here we go. Navigating. Okay. So this is your renters or your 401k plan. This is the class. It's class title. And generally speaking, renters really are your 401k plan, meaning that as you're working with renters, yes, they're only looking for an apartment now. If you are currently a renter, how many of your friends and friends of friends and are currently renting and not yet buying? And most realtors will say, I really want to work with buyers and sellers because I'm going to make that big payday, that big paycheck day. Well, a lot of agents and teams and brokerages that are out there are spending big dollars, huge amounts of sums of money to get those buyer leads that they can buy from Zillow and all these other places in market. And then especially in your productivity coaching programs and stuff like that, they're saying reach out to your sphere. So you've got paid leads, you've got your sphere of influence, the people in your contacts, the people but what a lot of people are not really looking at are the renters. So if you're working with a first-time buyer, what does that mean? They're actually currently renters, and they can renew their lease. They can decide to stay where they are, right? They can look for another apartment until they're ready to buy. And so most agents don't even want to work with renters because they just want to make that big paycheck. Well, I'm here to tell you that renters are your 401k because they're currently renting. You can do and help them find another property to rent And when they do become first-time buyers, who do you think they're going to reach out to because you gave them the same amount of care, time, and consideration as a buyer lead and that you did for them as a rental lead? They're going to remember your name. You're going to continue to reach out to them to see how everything's going and how do they like their neighborhood, and just follow-ups, right? Once a quarter, so like 4 phone calls a year, a couple emails and that kind of stuff. So when they think real estate, when they think buying, our goal is to get them to think of your name and to reach out to you. So a little bit about me per se is that, like I'm one of the owners in the company for Rent Philly, and we represent over 40 high-rise apartment buildings in the city. The value of those buildings are over $3 billion in terms of value if we were to sell them. And it encompasses about 10,000 plus apartments in the city that we have the opportunity to rent out in a year. That's a lot. So some of the buildings we have, which you may be familiar, may not be, some of these the properties and stuff like this, like the Atlantic Building, Parktown Place, the Dalian, which is above Whole Foods in the Art Museum area we represent. All these different properties need to find great renters for their properties. And as such, we generate a huge amount of rental leads just for our team alone. These aren't all the buildings, it's just some of the buildings we represent, where if we get leads as part of the productivity coaching program, we've added, Kevin Toll, who runs it, has given me your contact information, and we've added you in our system so that if we need help in the overflow of leads, we're sending them out to you as well. So being part of the productivity coaching program, you're also benefiting from all of our hard work, Kevin's work, my work, KW Philadelphia, to generate these leads, so that if I can't match it with an agent on our team, I want to make sure that they're handled properly. So we're giving you the opportunity to be able to do that. So a little bit of numbers in terms of like what Keller Williams thinks about rentals, which is the average rental rate is about $1,500 a month. And technically now it's about $1,750 per month, but it's just easier numbers wise to look at this. So most 1-bedroom apartments are 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms and studios. They average all the way down to about $1,500 a month in Philadelphia. So if you represent the tenant, you're looking at the tenant side of the transaction for $1,500 is a half month's rent commission, which is $750 before splits, before you pay whatever percentage to Keller Williams, whatever you pay in taxes. And Keller Williams thinks of it like, if you do a sale, how do you account for your gross commission earned from when you started, for your 1-year anniversary? How do they count your sales volume if you do rentals? Well, what they do is they take not what you made on that rental, $750 before splits and taxes, but they look at the rental rate and then they multiply that by 12. And 12 is that tenant is paying 12 installments of $1,500 a month over a 12-month period, and that equals $18,000. So Keller Williams says, I'm going to take the rental rate, multiply it by 12, which will get you the sales volume for that transaction, which is $18,000. Now, if you did a sale at $18,000, that's not really a lot of commission, right? So I'm going to just quickly do a little math here. So I'm going to take 18,000 and multiply it by 0.26. So that's basically $468 if you did an average rate of 2.6%, right? So most people would say, well, 3% is what you'll charge, or 2.5%. But if you average all of the rates out there of what they're offering, what you'd make on one side of the transaction, it's 2.6%. So you'd only make $468 if this was a sale, $18,000 sale. You sold a piece of land or something like that with a client. You make this before splits, or you make $750 before splits. So it just all counts towards your goal and stuff like that. So a little bit of stuff here, volume for us. I haven't added in the 2020 numbers yet, but we have for Rent Philly in our team, we have a consistent, upward. There we go, upward growth of sales volume and stuff like that just for rentals. So this is our GCI, right? We did 46 million in 2019, 42 million. So Philadelphia is a city that loves renters, loves rentals. So there's a lot of them out there, which means there's a lot of first-time buyers that you guys can start working with before they become buyers and not have to spend a gazillion dollars to generate these leads. And it's not just from your sphere of influence as well, right? So basically, we're going to get really into the grind here. We're going to get into the numbers and that kind of stuff. So the basic info is you can generate yourself a 40-to-1 ratio of rental leads versus buyer leads. For every one buyer lead that you would generate, you can generate 40 rental leads because just the sheer volume. Most rental leads have never worked with a realtor, have never worked with a subject matter expert, has never worked with someone that knows the city well enough to tell them and cater their searches so that it's not just some random craziness out there that they're on Zillow and looking for these tours, and this day I'm going to tour this property and 3 hours later I'm going to tour this one, and it's their schedules. You are able to compile all of that into a comprehensive list, send that out, spend 2 hours to go out on tour. They see everything that's out there. It's less chaotic. And what do you think that they're going to think about when they're going into tour or they're thinking of real estate? Like, wow, they really helped me. They really compiled this and made it much easier for me to be able to do it. Right? So, but why would you want to qualify 40 rental leads versus one buyer lead? Right? It takes the same amount of time talking on the phone, emailing them and texting the buyer lead versus 40 rental leads. Now, a buyer, and the average sale in Philadelphia is about $325,000. You'll make $3,000, $4,000 in commission for one buyer. So you're thinking, oh, I'm going to make that big commission. I only have to work with one person versus 40 people. Well, as newer agents starting out, you don't have that many people that really contact, that are really looking to move, to purchase, and stuff like that. So working with renters, it gets you to learn the city. It gets you, if you have a car, it gets you to learn where can you park for 30 minutes for free while you go out on tour. It also, a lot of the buyers in Philadelphia are condo buyers. So a lot of the buildings that you'll be able to send to them and properties are in condominium buildings. They're individual owners that have decided to rent out their condo or even a townhouse, and you're going to learn what does the Murano building at 2101 Market Street look like on the inside? Does it have parking? Does it have a pool? This kind of stuff that will help you when you're working with buyers because you have experienced it and touring it with renters already. It helps make you become a trusted advisor with wisdom that you're applying to your knowledge rather than just regurgitating knowledge. And, it's a big difference, right? So are they a waste of time? They're not, because they're going to be your 401k plan. You're working now to put in your retirement fund for later, right? You're all, I'm just saying, it's looking at your photographs, you're all relatively young, right? Do you want to start planning for your retirement when you're 65, 70 years old? They're like, oh, that's so far in advance. I don't have to worry about it now. That's okay. You don't have to, but this is just in line thinking of the same type of thing here as well. So renters turn into buyers and sellers and investors over the lifetime, right? If you're all renters now, do you want to remain a renter for your lifetime? Maybe you do. But most likely, the majority of you guys want to be able to own something in the future. So if you're currently a renter, put yourself in their shoes, in the renter's shoes. Do they want to become buyers? If you try to turn a renter into a buyer right off the bat, they're going to ghost you. Their goal is to find a rental apartment. You're going to turn me into a buyer? Like, I don't have money for down payment. My credit's terrible. Well, find them the property that they need now so you can work with them to fix their credit, so you can work with them of what it means to own in the future, right? So how do you change your mindset about renters, right? That 40-to-1 ratio. Let's see, what is it? Yep, that this 40-to-1 ratio versus working with 40 renters versus one buyer, right? So the idea is, how do you change your mindset about renters? Work with 40 versus one. Well, you have to learn how to qualify your leads faster for renters. It's really about you're interviewing the rental lead as much as they're interviewing you. You want to know, or if you spend time working with them, will it lead to profit and lead gen? Not necessarily profit for this one specific transaction for the rent this apartment, but will it lead to potential referrals for future profit, future referrals, future business, future profit? And will this specific renter potentially be a buyer in the future? So even if somebody were to say, I only want to find a 2-bedroom at $1,000 in, the Northeast Philly, will you work with that person? I mean, $1,000, you're going to have to travel a lot. The likelihood you'll find a 2-bedroom at $1,000 or less is highly unlikely. But I had an agent on my team who took that renter, $1,000 in the Northeast. He was a police officer. His wife was in the Air Force. And 3 years later, they ended up buying their very first home for $255,000. It's because that agent stayed in contact with them. And when they go to purchase their next home or an investment property, they're going to reach out to that agent as well. So even though now that agent did not actually rent to them 3 years ago, but he stayed in contact with them and helped send them additional properties. And they were very happy with him being able to work with it. So right off the bat, when a lead comes to you, or you get a lead sent to you by me, or you found a rental lead, basically, this is a really cool statistic here. They are going to either move or renew, and that's it. A 50-50 chance that they're going to do a real estate transaction within a 12-month period from the date that they reached out to you. Now, some of them will say, well, I'm just going to move back home with my parents. Those are outliers, meaning that they're off the bell curve. They're not the norm of what you would see by any means. A handful of just those, but 50-50 chance. The only thing, there's only 2 other industries that I can think of that are almost guaranteed to do a higher transaction. A hospital, right? You walk into the hospital, you're gonna get billed. Your insurance may cover you, but you're going to do a transaction when you walk into a hospital or a doctor's appointment. And then also like a cell phone company. If you're going to a cell phone company, there's a reason why you're walking in. I don't go to a cell phone company just to shop for what's the newest and greatest stuff. I'm looking online already, so right off the bat, these renters are either looking to move or renew. So I've got a question for you guys. And Caleb, I don't want you to answer this because you probably already asked you this, and it's not a trick question. Who is most likely to rent with you based on the days that they need to move? This is where you all take your microphones off. And I want to ask, is somebody that needs to move 30 days or less has the highest probability to rent with you? 30 to 60, 60 to 90, or 90 or over days? What do you guys think?
I feel like 30 days or less, someone that really needs help.
What's that, Kate? I'm sorry.
30 days or less. I feel like if they're really looking, they're just like, I need something fast.
Okay. Jerry, Keon, any of you guys have any? All right, well, I'll tell you what, the statistic is, hold on a second. If you're touring someone with 30 days or less, you have a 10% chance of renting to them. 10. No matter how many properties and units you show them, 10. Does any, well, I'll ask a rhetorical question. Does anyone know why it's only 10%? I say, put yourself in that renter's shoes. You need to move 30 days or less. You reached out to an agent, or an agent reached out to you about a specific property. I got to ask you, if I'm the agent and you're the lead, and you tell me you need to move 30 days or less, listen, I'm about qualifying the lead. I want to make sure I'm going to spend my time working with you to know that we're going to close. I'm going to say, what made you wait for 30 days or less? Did you get denied? Is your credit bad? You know, like literally, what made you wait 30 days? I mean, yes, you're contacting me. Yes, you have a need to move, but no matter how many properties I'm going to tour to you, it's not going to be enough, right? Wouldn't you guys be freaked out if you had to move 30 days or less? You had to find a property, apply, get approved, move in money, sign and execute a lease, find movers, all these 6 things, and probably 7 or 8 more things that I haven't thought of right now, you know, to be able to do it. I mean, it's we do get a lot of renters that need to move 30 days or less, and you really have to gauge working with them. Will it lead to profit and lead gen? It's not necessarily, again, about working with that lead right now to get paid on this deal. It's will it lead to future stuff? So you always are balancing and figuring out, will it work better to work with them knowing that you only have 10% chance? Because they've seen, how many properties have they seen? I've seen 30. Well, what of these 30 properties didn't you like? Or I've only seen 2, or, you know, like last minute, I have to move. So some of the numbers here for you guys to understand this. If you had 10 leads, well, here we go, 10. If you had 10 leads and you went out to tour these 10 leads, the average rental rate is $1,500 a month. It takes you an hour of your time to qualify and send out the leads and talk to them and send out properties and arrange tours, and then 2 hours to tour everything that you wanted to see. That's a lot of hours you're spending, and you only rent to 1 lead out of those 10. You spend 30 hours of your day. That's almost a full work week, right? And you only make basically $25 per hour, which is $750. I don't know if you can sustain yourself on that, nor, you know, financially, nor do I think you could keep up 30 hours to only have that type of return on investment of $750 before taxes and before splits to KW and that kind of stuff. That's a lot. So hold on a second. So the highest probability is the 60 to 90 days. 60 to 90 days. And why will I say that? Well, hold on a second. My screen keeps moving this thing around here. Let's see if I can move this. Okay. So the reason 60 to 90 days is this. Most leases in the city requires the landlord, the owner, to notify the tenant 90 days before the end of their lease and ask them, are you planning to move or renew? So that tenant has 30 days to make up their mind. So from 90 days down to 60 days, they have to tell that their landlord, their owner, that they're planning to move or renew. If you're able to get them between that 60, 90 days, they're somewhat making that decision, is it worth moving or renewing? Because they're not under that tremendous amount of pressure of 30 days or less to move and freaking out, you're able to really give them your wisdom with applied knowledge to be able to help and guide them. Maybe the safest bet is actually to get them to renew. And you're not going to make any money if they renew. But the goal is to do what's fiduciarily responsible for the client based on your knowledge on the market. And if you're able to save them money, right? So renting there's no return on investment. If I'm paying out rent each month, I'm not making anything as a renter paying rent, right? There's no return on investment versus a mortgage, right? You're paying money, the property value will increase, you're paying down the debt that you've applied, that you've gotten. And so I always say this with my renters is you want to have the maximum amount of enjoyment for the least amount of cost, because there is no return on investment. And when they start thinking about that, they're not thinking that you're going to send them the only most expensive properties. You're going to send them everything based on their search criteria, but they really should consider the maximum enjoyment for the least amount of cost. So you have a 50 to 70% chance of renting to this lead if they need to move within 60 to 90 days. And that's because you're going to tour on average 5 to 7 properties. Now, a property is a hard address, such as 1500 Locust Street is an apartment building with 500 plus units in it. That's a property, 1500 Locust. You may tour multiple units in that property, but as long as you're touring 5 to 7 properties, you have a 10% chance per property of touring. So as you're touring one property, a second property, and let's say you only tour 3 properties, but you tour, let's say 5 units total in 3 properties, you have a 30% chance of renting it to them versus only 10%, no matter how many properties and units you tour with somebody that's 30 days or less. It's just a statistic, but it's based off of all of these apartments and showing requests that we have on our side to tell you what this is. You're not a door opener, right? You're just not there to provide knowledge and a key and open a door for this 60 to 90 day thing. You're really trying to become a trusted advisor. So here's the return on investment for you guys on a 60 to 90 day, right? Take out 10 tours. You're closing on average 5 of them, a 50% closing ratio. Instead of $125 an hour, instead of $25 an hour for a 30-day or less renter, you're making now $125 before splits. It's a big difference. It's a big, big difference. Big money. So the probabilities are highest rate of rentals is that 60, 90 days because you're able to give them really good advice, stay in good contact, and they're not rushing, right? So here's the question. What's the proper lead qualifying procedure when you get a rental lead? KW has something called the 10 days of pain. Contact them only for 10 days. They don't respond, screw them. Go work on someone else, right? Is it call one, hi, this is my name, blah, 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 insert blah, 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 send them a text message, blah, blah, all this kind of stuff. 10 days, the same thing over and over and over and over and over. Is it an 8x8, which in KW, an 8x8 is basically, you're going to reach out to them 8 times over 8 days. Is it a 33 touch campaign? A 33 touches, 33 times you're going to touch them over 12 months. I'm going to send out a newsletter. I'm going to have a to-do thing for them. I'm going to call them and wish them a happy summer and July, 4th of July and all this stuff. Well, to be quite honest, none of this stuff is good enough for rental leads, okay? All of this stuff is just, it's not going to work. It's not geared towards rentals. All of these campaigns, which are KW-based campaigns, were never designed for rental leads. They were designed for buyers and sellers. They were never, ever designed for rental leads. It's different, right? Qualifying a rental lead is different than qualifying a buyer lead. Right off the bat, okay? You need a 90-day plan for these rentals, right? Because the average person, hopefully you get them, needs to move 90 days or less. So you want to be able to contact them because there's so many choices for them. They're out there looking at Zillow and Truly and HotPads and Oodle, Vast, Amazon. I mean, I don't know, Uber. Maybe Uber is going to get into the real estate business, and they're just going to call you up and say, I want to tour this property. And, up comes a car with a realtor. I mean, who knows? But a 90-day campaign, you need to keep contacting these people until you have a two-way conversation or until they say, stop, leave me alone. So most likely, you're going to get a lead inquiring about a specific property before you even contact them. A specific address, a unit number, maybe you know what the MLS number is, and a rental rate, most likely, right? Or you can find that out and they request more information, the time to tour. I want to see this on Saturday. Nothing else is provided. So what do? Right? Is this a first direct contact, right? A two-way communication. Okay, I'm gonna, that's actually a question for you guys. Is this a direct contact, right? Kate or Jerry, Caleb, I want to tour this $17.95 per month at 1420 Locust Street. They send you an email. Is it a first contact? Is it a direct contact? You're having two ways.
No, because the renter or the agent hasn't reached out yet.
Yeah, very true. Caleb?
So I would say, because you don't know who you're talking to. I mean, is that kind of what we're asking here? Is if it's like you might be talking to someone who's an agent already represented, or
That happens.
I don't know. You need to know more.
Yeah, it does happen. It does happen, and this is just an inquiry. They just inquired about this property. We know nothing else about it, but I will tell you this: because they inquired about this property, 1420 Locust Street. Do you remember what I said about this? Let me find this slide here. No matter what, they're planning to move or renew within 50-50 chance within 12-month period. Without even knowing about them and when they need to move, you know that they most likely are a renter. They will have to move within 12 months or less from the date of this inquiry. Let me find this slide again. Hold on a second. All right, from the date when you get this lead, 50-50 chance without even knowing them that they're going to do some real estate transaction, probably a rental, highest probability that they're going to rent, and they're planning to either move or renew. 50-50 chance right off the bat, right? So it's just an inquiry. And what do? You guys got to call and text immediately, like now. You get it?
Yeah.
You call. You call them. You set up bright alerts immediately. And actually, I would say, besides saying if there's a phone number, call the lead right off the bat, I'd say the very first thing, go in and create a property alert, a daily alert immediately from Bright. Not, and I repeat this, not from Kelly or KW Command in any way. Do not set up a property nurture, or any type of property alert in Command, period. It's built for sales. It is not built for ease of use for renters. It is not. And I know it's kind of weird hearing an agent telling you not to use Command. You can put the lead in Command to keep track of them. You can have smart plans, and you can create smart plans to remind yourself to follow up with them. But under no circumstances are you to send properties or set up neighborhood nurture campaigns, because it's based on sales. You're going to send sales stuff. They're going to ghost you. That's it. Set up an alert. You already know the average price point. $17.95 they inquired about. You can find out if this is a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, and where based on the location is, the zip code is 19102. The 1420 Locust Street is Center City. So this is what you do: set up a bright alert for something that do a comp analysis, right? Competitive analysis. A 1-bedroom, or even do a 2-bedroom maximum price point 2,000 or less in multiple neighborhoods or zip codes that are surrounding this. Who cares when they need to move for move-in date or availability date? Set it up. You've got the basics, right? If somebody inquires to purchase a property and this happens to be a condo, do you think you could send them comparable properties that they may be interested in? If you don't, work with your productivity coach to be able to generate and to find how to actually do it. It's the same thing. Finding a condos for sale or properties for sale is the same as finding rentals, but it's a different format in Bright, but it's the same basis, right? So, and you tell them in threes. Basically, you can see all this stuff, right? Call, email, text, blah, blah, but tell them once, tell them again, and tell them you told them so. Send out the Bright alert immediately. Call them and say, hey, I just sent you not only just this specific property, but I sent you everything that may meet your expectations. Call me back. Are you available at 7 p.m. tonight or 9 a.m. tomorrow morning? Text them, hey, I just sent you an email. I just left you a voicemail. Let me know if you got the property alerts that I just sent out. Tell them once, tell them again, tell them you told them so. It's like the three basic things in marketing that you can't, it's it. So what is it all for? Why go through these 40 leads? You get 40 leads, you're going to set up 40 Bright alerts? That's a lot. I'm telling you, if you can do 40 Bright alerts in your sleep, when you get these buyer leads, how easy is it going to be to do all of this all over again for that buyer lead? It's going to be a snap. And it's easier to make mistakes with a rental lead where the commission per transaction is significantly lower than what you would make for a buyer lead, which is significantly higher, right? So this is the reason. You give them a good time and consideration. They will turn into buyers and sellers. So I'm going to play a quick little video of an agent talking about their first foray into it. I'm going to mute myself, or I'm going to turn down the volume on my side. If you can't hear it, let me know, and that means I have to turn up the volume on my computer, but I want you to listen to this. Let's see if we got it.
So the reason why rentals are super important.
Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
It just got muted again. So we heard it starting out and now it's muted.
Yeah, we can't hear it now.
Could you hear it?
No, at first we could, and then it got muted again.
Okay, so
It might be when you muted yourself that it stopped.
I'm just going to replay it, okay?
So the reason why rentals are super important is because I actually got my real estate career kicked off by doing rental. I was on the floor way back when, and I happened to answer a floor call on a Sunday. It was a person that wanted a rental. Turned out when I asked her what your reasons are for moving, she had a home to sell. It turned out to be a short sale, and I kind of pretended or faked it till I make it. So they say that I knew a lot about short sales. Wound up getting her a rental, sold that short sale. From that short sale, I got a ton of investors that are still my clients today. Swear to God, honest to God, that is how I got my start. It's amazing. Another short story is that I recently put someone in a rental at Waterfront Square. She has referred her parents to me. They're downsizing and buying a $500,000 townhouse out in the suburbs, and they're going to have to sell their home in the fucking town. So rentals are amazing, great way to kick off your career in real estate.
Okay, thank you, Maria. And a little life cycle on rental stuff. So renters on average move every 2 years on average. They stay in a property. They may get a discount the first year. The second year, their rate increases a little bit. Then the third year, they get notice that their rate is going to go up. And so now they're like, well, I don't know if it's worth me staying here. I want to see what else is out there, and they'll find something else and they'll move. A buyer will purchase something in 1 year and then not purchase or sell something anywhere between 4 and 9 years later through a transaction. So you can do 4 years, you'll get 2 transactions, and then they'll turn into buyers. That's 3 transactions in the amount of same time that you worked with one buyer that only did 1 transaction. One buyer leads to, let's say, 3 referrals at the best. One renter leads to, remember the ratio 40-1? They potentially know other renters. You have to ask for that business. You always have to ask. It is astounding how much stuff. So why basically am I always, I don't know if you know me, but anytime I talk about this, like even to the brokerage and even to the owners and my partners, why am I excited about all this stuff? I always say, don't work with buyers, work with renters. You make more money. And they look at me like I'm crazy, because probably I am, right? So I rented to 40 clients last year, as an example, okay? I can follow up with those clients throughout the year. I can call them every quarter and ask for referrals. The people I actually worked with, right, and rented to. I become their trusted real estate advisor. I invite them to client appreciation events, even with those with the buyers and the sellers and investors and management companies that we work with. I can analyze the price points, and I can find out better ways of acquiring the same type of rental leads that I closed on, right? So if I'm closing more $1,500 one bedrooms than I am at $2,000 two bedrooms, so how can I be more efficient and get more $1,500 one bedrooms, right? If I can close more deals at $1,500 versus a couple at $2,000, yeah, $2,000 you make more money, but overall I'm going to make more by closing that $1,500. I'm going to try and focus on that. I can also similarly think about, well, how can I increase closing at that $2,000 rate to increase my time invested, right? So we're independent agents, we're entrepreneurs. We only make what we make if we're working with someone. And in the same amount of time, 2 hours to tour, 1 hour to qualify a rental lead as a buyer lead, how do I make more money with the same amount of time, right? Because that's the one thing we can't get back, we can't buy more of, is time. So how can I make more money in the same amount of time as I can, right? That's always my goal, is to how can I do that? So I took out 50 clients and I only rented to 40 of them. So this is my closing ratio. It's way different than what you guys would be experiencing. New agents generally experience a closing ratio between 9 and 12% on their first year of everyone they're in front of. It's just 9 or 12% because you're getting into the business, you're learning it, right? And that's really low end people that just, I don't want to, I'm just going to spend a little time here and figure this out. If you really put your mind to it, you have a much higher success and track record. So I generated 1,000 rental leads personally last year. What happened to the 10 clients that didn't rent with me, right? I took out 50 people physically in front of me. 40 I rented to, 10 I didn't. What happened to 320 leads that I had a two-way conversation with, but I never took them out? And then I have 630 leads that I've never spoken to or had any interaction with. I did that 90-day program. I called them, I texted them, I reached out to them, but they ghosted me from the very beginning. It's a lot. And listen, I set up 1,000 bright alerts last year, only to get 40 clients. 1,000. I mean, think of it: 1,000 bright alerts and only 40 clients rented. That's a lot. What happens to all of these leads, these 1,000 leads? So I'm not excited about the 40. Where's my mouse here? I don't know where my mouse is, but I'm not excited about the 40 I rented to, or the 50 clients that, the 10 that I didn't rent to, or the 320 leads that I had a two-way conversation with. What happens to all these leads? Well, guess what? It's right here. The day that they reached out to you, I assume they need to move 90 days or less. I've already generated all of these leads from last year. What do you think I'm going to do this year with all of these? Knowing the date they reached out to me last year, they had to move or renew a 50-50 chance. The 630 leads that never talked to me, they probably have to move again and decide if they're going to move or renew. Well, I already have their information. I have it. I just have to have a system to remind me. So when you add these leads into Command, put in a reminder 1 year from the day that they reached out to you to reach back out to them and ask them this: are you planning to move or renew this year? Because last year you inquired about X property. Right? What happens to them? You can estimate. And you also already generated all of those leads. So now, let me ask you this. As a renters are your 401k plan, do you see how in each year you're doing this, you're building up 1 year 1,000. The next year you're going to generate another 1,000. But you also now have the 1,000 that you generated the year before added into this year. Now it's 2,000 that you get to reach out to. And the following year, 3,000. It's like compounding interest. It's like your 401k plan. You're building it so that it will grow and grow and grow. KW says that if you have a database of about 5,000 people in it, this is a good statistic. If you have a database of about 5,000 people in it, that will most likely lead to about $120,000 in commission per year. Because as you're working with your renters, you're asking, who else do you know that needs to rent? But if you change it just a little bit and tweak it to say, who else do I need to know that you know that is looking to buy, sell, rent, or invest? Because I will treat them with the same amount of care and consideration as I did with you when you're looking to rent. And most agents only want to work with buyers or sellers. It's basically a complete circle working with these renters, because in 2 years, they're going to move or renew. In 3 years, they could most likely potentially purchase. If their credit is bad, you can work with them to improve their credit reporting agencies, and all that kind of stuff. So, okay. That's basically it. And I even have 10 minutes of extra time to go over any questions you guys may have. And happy to be a source if you have any questions whatsoever. I'll put my contact information into the chat thing now. I'm going to do this, which is, and also put in my mobile number. Best way to get a hold of me, so I'll also give you my name too. Best way to get a hold of me is to shoot me a text. You can also email, but the texting is best with all the emails that we have from the lead gen and the buildings and stuff like this. I get hundreds and hundreds per day. So I want to make sure I can get you guys a priority. So, okay, you guys have any questions?
Thank you.
Share more details about the property alerts. Like, how do you set up the property alerts?
Okay, so that's fairly that's a very good question. Give me one second. I'm just going to open up a new window here, and I'll show you very quickly. This is also being recorded, so you can reach out to the Market Center and have them get you a copy of this. So I'm going to go into Bright. You guys can see my screen, yes?
Yes.
All right. Let's see, going to my account. So we're going to use the example of 1425 Locust Street for 1795, which was a one bedroom. It's what I shared in this specific thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to search residential lease. This is important. Residential lease. If you go into sale or anything else, you'll never find rentals. Residential lease. This looks almost like the same type of bright alerts you would do for property for sale. So 1425 Locust Street was in the zip code of 19102 at Center City. I want to send out a property alert, even though I have never talked to this lead, of something that's similar and within a relative same proximity. So I'm going to use zip codes because it's just easier than typing in neighborhoods, at least for me. So I'm going to do 19102, which is that zip code where the property is. Now, what's close to Center City? Rittenhouse Square. So I'm going to type in 19103. I'm also going to type in, so Washington Square is also close, 19107. We also have Society Hill, Old City, Queen Village, Bella Vista, Graduate Hospital. It's, even though you think, well, it's 5 blocks this way, 10 blocks over here, I want to make sure I do a broad search first. And then after connecting with them, I'm going to narrow it down. So I'm going to put in, bear with me, the zip codes that I think will work for the specific lead. I'm looking for active leads and the price point. Remember, this one was $17.95. So I'm going to do anything that's $2,000 or less. So I put $2,000 minus. I remove the thousands because the thousands is like for purchase. So I just remove the thousands, 2,000 or less. I have no idea when they need to move, so I'm going to leave it blank. And for bedrooms, now I know this is a one bedroom. What if though they could afford a 2-bedroom though at 2,000 or less? So I'm going to actually put in 1 plus. Anything that is a 1-bedroom or larger. Bathrooms, we all assume a 1-bedroom has at least 1 bathroom. If you leave it blank, that's fine. Most rentals, almost all rentals except for commercial, may have, well, will have at least 1 bedroom. And so based on this, and based on, I don't know if they have any pets, I don't know if they need parking. If you look down here, there's 975 total properties that's just based on these zip codes at this price point or less that are 1 bedrooms or more. And if I click on results, I have everything here. Everything possible. So if I want to send everything out, I'm going to click on MLS up here. So it highlights everything. It says it's only checked 25, which is 25 per page out of 975. I'm going to click all. So now I see checked is 975. I'm going to go down and I'm going to click on, oh, I have too many items checked. So it's only allowing me to send out 500 total. So what I'll do is I'm going to send 250. Let's see. So let's say the price point is 2,000. I'm getting all the way down 1850, 1795, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so out of 250, I've got 250 checked. And if I go all the way to the bottom, 1795, I could probably go now into the next page, which is another 250. I could individually, I could select all of these. So now we're at 500. It's the maximum. Remember 1795, and it's getting now to 1600. So we're in the same price range. Now I can click email. So I can send them one list right off the bat. This is everything. Or, and here's what I suggest. Instead of sending just one property list, set up a daily property alert. So they receive everything all at once. And then tomorrow, if anything gets added to the market or it gets reduced based on their search criteria, they're going to get one email with everything in it, which is way more efficient than generating this list every single time to send out to them. I'm going to click save. Here we're limited, right? Save only about 250. So if we're saving something, it looks like we can only do 250. Oh. So there's 250. Okay, so how about there we go. Too many results, max. All right, so let's go back down to 50. It still thinks we're futzing with this. Give me one quick second. I'm going to just see if I can just reduce it to a little. Let's do 1,600 to 2,000. 420. Let's just say 1 bedrooms, 355. I'm just futzing around with all this kind of stuff, just in this case, so I can share this with you guys. Let's just do 50. Okay, so it still thinks I'm trying to send it. Let's restart the search. Let's do this. 2,000 or less.
Add some pets to it. That
Well,
always makes my search go down.
And here I've got one, so I only have 105. There we go. So new auto email, save new auto email. I'm going to, I've already have somebody in here. You can create a new contact, type in the first, last name, and email address, and click save. It'll add them into here. You can CC yourself, but I strongly suggest not, because it's just a lot of emails that you'll end up getting. And the subject is what your search is. Every 1-bed apartment under 2. Right? If they have pets, you'd say with pets. And this is the basic stuff. As you go down here, this is what you want. Schedule. Daily emails sent on the days I choose. I choose all AM. I want everything to get sent in the morning so they have a whole day to review, and I click save, and that's it. If you select ASAP, God help you, because you're going to get ghosted. What this means is you're going to get, your lead is going to get 1 email per property if it's reduced in price, just listed. I just showed you 975 properties. They're going to get 975 emails. And then every day something changes. Do not do that unless they are looking for something very, very specific. I need parking, 1 bed with pets in this zip code. I need to move by this date. And oh, by the way, I want it to be built, in 1950. Something ridiculous, right? But it's really narrowed down. Only do ASAP. This is really set for buyers, especially in today's market, where they're looking for $325,000 for new construction in Fishtown. It almost never exists. It goes off the market like nobody's business. That's where you would set something like that up, because in a hot market, you want to immediately send something out that's faster than what Zillow can do, which is what this does. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody else? Okay, great, Jerry.
So
Jerry?
oh, I'm sorry. Just regarding that example, so that first email, you would get that list of 50 or 9 or whatever we sent, and then continuously just one every morning with the new, or
If they'll get one each morning if something new has changed. So if a property that they've been looking at or that was in that original search had reduced in price, they'll get an email with everything once a day, just one email though, of any property update, a new property, a just reduced property, right? That's what they'll get, but they won't get hundreds and hundreds. You don't have to send out a list right from the get-go. Just by saving that search, will automatically send out that email initially, and then tomorrow they'll get everything, set up that way. Do not use command though to send out those emails for property owners, for rentals.
So my understanding is that they only get the updates daily. If there's no updates, they won't get the email at all.
Exactly.
is there a certain number of properties you would send right, like 50? That would be too many to send at once.
Why?
No?
Let me ask you why.
No, I guess it just is that overwhelming? I guess if you're looking, it's not. It's helpful.
Well, remember, we're setting up the bright alerts before you've even contacted them of when they need to move, of what their price point is. We have no idea. So it's the broadest net possible. We want to get their response, sending them a property alert, calling them and texting them. And if they have no response, tomorrow they'll get another list. And you're going to call and text them, until they respond. When they do respond, and you find out what they're searching for, I only want to be in these 2 zip codes or this neighborhood. You go back into their saved searches and adjust their saved search to what they're specifically looking for in their price points.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question. So I have a couple of leads that I'm trying to, become an agent for. And when the question, eventually you want to become an agent of them, so you're not a sub-agent of the landlord. Like, how do you bring around the conversation for agency and get that contract in their hand?
So this is actually where I kind of differ from a lot of other agents, and probably from the PC coaching program and the brokerage in whole. If you're going out to tour, I would have them sign a consumer notice, print out a consumer notice and have them sign it when you're there meeting them and saying, I work for you. Everything that you say to me is confidential. I never divulge any information unless you give me the authority to do so. And telling them that you're a realtor, you're licensed, and you have ethics and blah, blah, blah. If you try to get them to sign a buyer agency agreement before you even go out and tour, it's kind of like, for me, for the amount of leads that we generate, it's like asking them, will you fill out a credit report until before I take you out? I want to see where your credit is. Now, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, that is what I did. I did not take out anybody unless they fill out a credit report and I knew that they had good credit, because I want to spend my time wisely and know that they'll be able to get what they want. If they have a credit score of 500 and we're looking at $3,500 one beds, there's no way. There's no way that they're going to get qualified for that and apply for it. So they basically met you through the internet, ones and zeros, or never met you yet, or they talked to you. Trying to get them to give you your social security number and credit history is like the same thing of having them sign a buyer agency agreement with you. The only thing you legally need in order to close a transaction, and a rental transaction, is 2 things at Keller Williams Philadelphia. 2 things: a consumer notice signed by your client or clients that you're taking out and renting, and signed by you, and an executed lease signed by all parties. And even in some cases, such as the buildings that we represent, they don't even give out executed leases to the tenant's agent or even to us. Sometimes they consider it proprietary information. They just won't do it. So the only thing you need is a consumer notice and a lease, if you can get it. A buyer agency agreement, working with a renter is almost useless. Almost. Getting the sign, yes, I would say they're investing their time and they understand what's going on and stuff like that. But I don't ask my clients to sign it. Or let me put it this way. If they apply and they get approved, I say on top of the lease documents, there is this additional document. It's called a buyer agency agreement. I'll send it to them in, the document system. If they sign it, great. If they don't, you're still, and KW is still going to pay me because I've got a consumer notice already.
Okay.
It's kind of like the little ins and outs. It's like, again, I don't want to create any barriers for the rentals, for the renter leads, because they really haven't experienced agents working with them to find properties. And now you're giving them a legal document and saying they can only work with you. Like they're just uneducated about it. And you could be the most amazing teacher and educator about it, and still your closing ratio of having them sign will be significantly lower and doing a transaction rather than never asking them to sign a buyer agency agreement. It's just the nature of the rental side of the business. I'm not advocating for you not to do it or advocating you to do it. I'm saying for myself, if I was working with the renters, I don't want to create any unnecessary burdens or boundaries that would stop them from using me, and knowing that it's not a required document in order to get paid if they do a transaction with me. The KW Philadelphia Market Center says you need a consumer notice and a lease if possible. That's it. Now, if you're working with buyers and sellers, get a buyer agency agreement. Get it. Must happen.
Because I've introduced, so one of my friends, he came to me, he's like, I think I want to buy. I was like, okay. And so I was prepared to, do a buyer's consult with him. And then he's like, actually, I don't know if I want to live in Philly for the next few years. I think I want to rent instead. I'm like, okay, cool. So I got everything set up to help him find something to rent, but I still set up the buyer's thing for him because I knew that thought was in his mind. Now I'm kind of nurturing him to become a buyer because I was like, realistically, to get benefit of actually buying a house, I feel like if you live in it for 4 or 5 years, at least you're building up something, right? So I think if I put it in a time frame that's doable, he's seeing that he's not committed to one city for too long. But
so a buyer agency agreement, I believe. Hold on one quick second. Let me ask. I just want to ask. Sorry. So I just wanted to ask our transaction coordinator here, Morgan, can a buyer agency agreement be greater than 12 months? Right? Can it extend for longer than a 12-month period? Because for a listing contract, it can only be 12 months. Right? A listing for a rental, a listing for sale can only be a 12-month period, 365 days. But a buyer agency agreement can be longer term. So as long as you're adding in a term, 4 years, 5 years, whatever, and your lead client signs it, great. I will tell you, working with a buyer and not having a buyer agency agreement is a really big risky thing. I was working with a buyer for over a year, went out to tour tons of properties. I figured it's not a big deal. And I got a call saying, hey, we just saw something over the weekend with a neighbor of ours who's a real estate agent. We're going to go put in an offer and buy it. Thanks so much. They ended up buying a $1.7 million property. I've been working with them for a very long time. And shame on me for not getting a buyer agency agreement, because that other agent who never knew what they were looking for was able to work with them because there was no buyer agency agreement. Now, renters that don't have a buyer agency agreement and another agent, I guarantee you, well, I'll be 99% sure by saying this, 99% of the time, another agent who's working with a rental lead that you may be working with will almost never ask them, do you have a buyer agency agreement with another realtor? It just doesn't happen here in Philadelphia. It's not like New York, where most if they high rise and the luxury type kind of rental buildings, they are almost all working with realtors, or a good majority of them. So they're asking, are you working with other realtors? Almost never will they ask, hey, do you have a buyer agency agreement with another realtor? They just won't. We're not a city that is trained as agents in order to do that. I'd like to change that, but it's just what we are. So basically, I'm telling you guys, these rental leads, you can make your monthly expenses of being a realtor, covering your fees, covering gas, covering your monthly cost to be a full-time. You could even have another secondary job or a primary job, and this is your part-time job or third job or fifth job, but it will cover your expenses of being a realtor, so that when you do work with buyers and sellers, those commissions are what are putting into your rainy day fund, your vacation time, your Caleb and Kate, do I say this, your show reels? Is that the right term? You can create new show reels every year of new stuff. I don't know. But yeah, so.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Very, very helpful. Thank you. And I kind of like this intimate group. It was nice.
Yeah.
So I teach this class once a month, and I also think I do a second version, like where we go into drip campaigns, smart plans, follow-ups, like specific stuff which we can do at sometime else in April. I don't know when it is, but it's all on the KW calendar. But you've got my contact information. Reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm always here and happy to help.
I would like to recommend, once you guys get your license and you get bright and you're learning all of this, definitely take it again, because I definitely benefited from taking this a second time, because now I know everything and I've seen everything and I've at least had a couple of leads, and I kind of had trial and error in some cases, but this is very helpful.
Listen, error is not errors. You know, like the Batman, one of the Batman's quotes is, why do you fall down? So that you can learn to pick yourself back up, right? It's not that, what's the Spider-Man thing? Great power comes great, whatever.
Great responsibility.
Yeah. Your mistakes will help lead you to not make mistakes in the future, to recognize what you've done in the past, and especially working with 40 to 1 buyer leads, you will make tons of mistakes, and you will remember those because you're making them often enough as newer agents, and so that it will get brushed out of your system, so that when you are working with your buyer and seller leads, you'll be making far less than the newer agents that are out there than just starting out. You'll really have that experience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks, guys. Great class. Reach out to me if you have any questions.
Will do.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.